Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the u3a radio podcast. I'm Nick Bailey, and as always, over the next half an hour, we have a wide range of topics. This time, we find out how artificial intelligence can act like Big Brother.
Every advert that you see popping up onto your computer screen is probably using some kind of AI-trained algorithm that's working on the basis of the data, the digital footprint that you leave behind.
We learn about the history of Hadrian's Wall.
Hadrian decided to come to Britain in 122 AD. He came and he issued instructions, and the wall, which would be 80 miles long, was to be built from Bowness on Solway to Wallsend on the Tyne.
And what is the Future Lives group?
The reasoning behind it is to do all we can to encourage as many u3a members as possible to get that extra 5 years of healthy life that the World Health Organization would like us to get.
And one way is diet. At the end of the programme, Alex Cannell from Vegetarian for Life will be extolling the virtues of eating our greens. And of course, another way is exercise. You may remember last month, Michael de Groot from Wyre Forest u3a told us about the Pickleball group he'd set up. But this month, we thought we'd take it a step further and send our reporter Sarah Goodall to talk to some pickleball players in action at her local Swansea u3a.
Today, I'm at Swansea Leisure Centre, and the noise you can hear in the background is a group of u3a members who are trying out a new racket sport called pickleball. Yes, pickleball, as in Branston, and no, I don't know why, but that's what it's called. Players are holding short-handled wooden paddles and hitting a yellow plastic ball over a low net. I'm going to find out what they think of it. You've come here today to learn about pickleball. Have you ever played it before?
No, this is the first time.
Have you played other racket sports before?
Yes, tennis a little bit.
Badminton in the past, many years ago.
So what made you come here today then?
We received an email asking if anybody was interested in trying out a new sport, and we thought that sounds good, and it's indoors for the winter, so we thought that's excellent.
Yeah, and we do love a bit of bat and ball on the beach, so it looked similar, so we thought we'd give it a go.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
I understand you're a veteran of racket sports.
I've played badminton for a long time, and then I've played soft tennis for the last year.
So how does pickleball compare with those other racket sports you've played?
Well, I think it's a lot less movement, so somebody possibly a lot less mobile would be able to play it, because once you get used to it, it's played close to the net, so you don't do as much running around as you do in badminton or soft tennis. They start to lob it, so I think that's the main difference, and it's a lot more gentle shots rather than driving all the time.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm talking to Steve Baker. He's the man in charge of this tryout here today at Swansea's Leisure Centre. Steve, pickleball, why have you done this session today?
Well, I've been playing pickleball for a while, and I've seen the growth. It's a vast sport over in America, but it's ideal for people who've played tennis but find that a little bit energetic now, still want to keep the skills going. It's excellent across all ages. It's a low stress, low impact sport that people can enjoy and get into really easily.
Is it complicated to learn the rules?
It's like most sports. Once you've got the basics down, which you can normally put over in about 15 minutes, people can start playing. You just need to know where the court is, what the rules around the court are, how you serve, where you can volley, when you can't volley, when it's got to bounce. That's about 15 minutes worth of coaching. Then off you go.
It looks as if you've got to have quite a lot of heft behind hitting the ball with those wooden paddles.
No, the thing is, because they're wooden, they've got a lot of resistance built into them. And because the ball's a plastic, it's called a waffle ball, it bounces off really easily. One of the things that I've stressed at the start of today's session is you don't have to hold the paddle hard, you hold it really lightly, and especially for dinking, it's more of a push. There's far less stress on your joints than having a long levered tennis racket. You've got a short handled paddle, and it's push shots and nice easy strokes.
And because the net is low, does that mean less effort is needed as well to get the ball over the net?
You can use different skills. One of the big things that's an advantage with pickleball is when you get into what's called dinking, and those are little shots over the net to each other, and so it takes out the big volleying and the smashes, and it turns it into a nice little skill game, and because the net's lower, that facilitates that too.
It sounds like anyone could have a go at this then, Steve.
Oh yeah, we've had, I was coaching somebody who was 84 the other day, and then we've got toddlers who were under fives playing as well in little groups.
Are you pleased with the turnout here today?
Well, we've got 22, and we haven't really advertised it a lot, so yeah, it's splendid. We've got to see how many people carry on after this, whether they like the taster, and then we'll get a bit more equipment in so everybody gets to play and there's nobody sitting around waiting. And with a bit of luck, we'll make this a regular event. I'm hoping next year that we'll even have a tournament based in Swansea.
Excellent. I look forward to that. Thank you very much, Steve Baker.
You're welcome.
That report from Sarah Goodall. We always welcome your emails via communications@u3a.org.uk. And Rod Rivers from Cambridge U3a, who's currently doing research on socio-technical systems, wrote to us about a series of talks he was giving locally on the subject of the social impacts of artificial intelligence, or AI, as it's known. Rod wanted to reach a wider audience and saw the podcast as an opportunity to spread his knowledge further. Peter Clift caught up with Rod and asked him to explain, in simple terms, what AI was.
The easiest way to start answering that question is to just quickly think about, well, what is intelligence itself? Artificial intelligence is intelligence demonstrated by machines, computers, computer systems that mimic in a way the kind of intelligence that human beings have.
We hear an awful lot now about AI, artificial intelligence. Is it in place? Are we using it at the moment?
Oh, yeah. Yes, most certainly we are. In fact, it's all over the place. Every advert that you see popping up onto your computer screen is probably using some kind of AI-trained algorithm that's working on the basis of the data, the digital footprint that you leave behind as you browse the internet, all that data being collected by companies and then used to do mainly marketing tasks, marketing products, making recommendations of products, trying to outguess what it is you're interested in and predicting what you might purchase. So that's a very common usage at the moment.
Many people are worried about artificial intelligence. We hear so many scare stories. I mean, are we right to be worried about what it can do?
I think the quick answer to that is yes, we should be worried about it. And we should be worried in a variety of different contexts. Of course, the potential for misidentification or the use of that technology by people that you'd rather not have that kind of power, that is a frightening prospect. Kind of aside, I think we should be worried about it just in the way that artificial intelligence is being used to generally manipulate our lives and to collect data on us, to the surveillance society where everything is known about you and there is no privacy. I think we should also be worried about it because the regulation of technology always lags behind the developments of technology by commercial organizations. Unless they're kept under control one way or another, anything could happen.
Looking perhaps more on the bright side, shall we say, I've seen Ada, the AI robot that can paint pictures and is quite an accomplished artist. What other good things are we getting at the moment from artificial intelligence?
Perhaps the most useful applications that one can think of immediately and that might apply to the u3a type demographic is in medical diagnosis and being able to screen for various diseases or identify the potential for disease before it actually becomes apparent. So all kinds of medical applications are useful, and I guess being able to do things like, pick up your phone and speak to it and get answers back, Google Home, Alexa, all those they all rely on artificial intelligence, and they do make life easier. And I suppose when it comes to all kinds of dirty, difficult, dangerous tasks, if you can use an artificial intelligence in the place of a human, then that's got to be a benefit to society generally.
I mean, we know that technology, as you've said, is advancing at an incredible rate. I mean, how do you think the world will look to our grandchildren 50, 60 years' time?
I think that's incredibly difficult to anticipate. And there's all kinds of scenarios. There's the sort of Terminator 2 scenario where have artificial intelligence police robots going around controlling society. I don't think that that's really a very realistic way in which things are likely to unfold. I think it's much more likely to be insidious in terms of its dangers, but with also very many benefits. Our children, our grandchildren may be living in smart cities, may have autonomous vehicles. A lot of the tasks that, like I say, the dirty, dangerous tasks and so on will be performed by artificial intelligences. Maybe it will release our children and grandchildren from some of those things that we have had to endure but would rather not do.
Rod Rivers from Cambridge U3a. And since that interview was recorded, ChatGPT has become all the rage, a sort of human version of Google. And who knows, we may in future be able to get robots to run the podcast. Actually, I hope not. U3a members from all over the UK will descend on Hadrian's Wall on May the 10th to celebrate the building of the wall 1900 years ago and the influence that the wall has had on our creative lives. But what about the history of the wall itself? John Sanderford, who's on the off-the-wall planning team, is a member of Tyndale U3a and often takes groups out for guided tours. And John joins me now. Well, let's talk about the history. And the very obvious question, why was it built?
Interesting. Of course, you really got to go back 50 years when the Romans first came into this part, north of England. And in fact, not only did they come into north of England, in the 80s AD, they conquered just about all of Scotland. And then they ran out of steam because there was a little problem a little bit nearer to Rome, and troops had to be withdrawn. And so although the Romans had got to Inverness and defeated the Britons, it was necessary to withdraw. And this took place over a period from 87 AD right through to 105 AD, where in fact there was a gradual withdrawal from Scotland. With the withdrawal of less troops, there was more problems. We remember there's very little written down about all this because, in fact, we were in the extreme northwest of the empire, and it meant that, in fact, people in Rome weren't very interested in what was going on unless there was something very dramatic taking place. So by 105 AD, we were getting to a border, and the Romans had a view of the border which was nowhere near as exact as we have today. But the border has settled very close to where the wall is now in 105 AD. We know from various bits and pieces, and it's all bits and pieces, that in fact there was trouble on the wall in this period, and in fact a series of forts were built between Carlisle and Corbridge to cope with that. And one gets the broad impression that they didn't cope very well. Hadrian became emperor in about 217 AD, and his ideas were totally different. All emperors want to expand the empire up to Hadrian, and he said, we're quite big enough. Hadrian decided to come to Britain in 122 AD. We don't know how long he was here. He probably spent a lot of time in a place called Vindolanda, which is a fort and probably the most intensely dug fort in the world. And that was right in the middle of what became the wall. And he came and he issued instructions, and the wall, which would be 80 miles long, was to be built from Bowness on Solway to Wallsend on the Tyne, which is east of Newcastle. The interesting thing is, it was obviously drawn up before they actually realised the geography of the business, because you get gates opening on up on the tops of cliffs. So it was issued and it was started, and they used troops from 3 legions in Britain to build it.
How long did it take to build?
You can say it was only just about finished in 138 when Hadrian died, and the wall continued to be manned right through to 410 or thereabouts, and even longer in some places.
Just finally, John, the wall must mean a lot to you. Is it the sort of place that you visit every day?
Nearly. Nearly.
And do you have a favourite part of the wall?
I suppose the windsill on which the wall is based.
Well, this is something hopefully that people will see when they come on the 10th of May. John Sandifer, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you.
On the 10th of May itself, u3a members can meet together at the Sill, the Northumberland National Park Discovery Centre, which is a stone's throw from Hadrian's Wall. There'll be 2 speakers, Dr. Rob Collins, Senior Lecturer in Archaeology at Newcastle University, and Dr. Andrew Burley, the CEO and Director of Excavations at the Vindolanda Trust. There'll also be guided tours of Vindolanda and fringe activities all day, including charcoal landscape drawing and creative writing. And in the week leading up to the 10th of May, there'll be a series of free online activities to take part in. For more details and to book your tickets, go to u3a.org.uk/off-the-wall. What do we want and need to do to get the best out of life in the third age? A question most of us has asked and is being addressed in the Future Lives group. Some of you may have seen the housing survey in one of the recent newsletters. It's the nationwide initiative led by Janet Sutherland of Crouch End and District u3a. She's been telling Joanne Watson more about their aims.
The reasoning behind it is to do all we can to encourage as many u3a members as possible to get that extra 5 years of healthy life that the World Health Organization would like us to get. I think we all know that we need to look after our future health and well-being, don't we? And my particular interest has always been in housing. And we tend to put off decisions as we grow older, but being in the right home can really affect the quality of your life as you age. A home where you're not going to have accidents or fall, or if you do fall and break a hip, you're not stuck in a hospital bed because you can't come home. So I was very keen to encourage people to think maybe there's some small changes they need to make to their existing home to help it support their independence as they age. Or perhaps if they need to move home, what would they want? When should they make the move? And then trying to gently encourage people not to put off making those decisions, but to get on with it. At the moment, we really don't do enough in any respect to think about the housing needs of older people. If we talk about older people's housing, we tend to think of specialist housing, whereas actually most people want to continue to live in a mixed age community and in general housing. But obviously the Future Lives isn't just about housing. It's about all the things that will help us maintain our health as best we can and our quality of life. So it's about trying to have inspirational speeches. We're trying to have a talk about once a month. We started off fabulously with Professor Janet Lord, talking about exercise and other things that we can do. Really good talk, all available on YouTube. Anybody can go and have a look at them. And then we had Professor Jeremy Myerson talking about design and the role of design. And then Samir Gray, who's very inspirational, talking about education, the elixir of healthy aging. And then me talking about housing.
I watched the Samir Gray on YouTube, and he was very keen on people getting some level of physical fitness, as it had an influence on cognitive ability. Do you think many people are actually aware of that?
I think people probably need continuous encouragement. I think however much people know they ought to exercise, they hear somebody like Professor Janet Lord or Samir Gray, then they think, well, yes, actually, there will be a lot of benefits if I do that. So it's about keeping the inspiration going. And our hope is that we'll have great speakers. They'll talk on a variety of different topics, but also we'll become a resource. So our webpage will have links. And some of the people who attended, actually it was Samir Gray's talk, they're doing online yoga for u3a members. And I mean, he was saying, you know, stand on one leg while you brush your teeth, because keeping your balance as you grow older is really important. And maintaining your balance will help you avoid falls. And just that simple thing of, you know, you brush your teeth for 2 minutes on one leg, quite hard to do, actually. For me now, I used to have no trouble. We just all need encouragement. And if it can be done in a fun way, and if we can find ways of people sharing things, I think that's very much what the u3a is about, isn't it? I mean, another area that people are really working out a lot of connection to aging health and avoiding disease and so on is diet. There's growing evidence, isn't there, of the link between the gut and the brain for preventing dementia as well as keeping yourself fit and healthy. And again, that's an area I hope that we'll be able to explore a little bit with people.
Because it is a national initiative, are you getting people fairly evenly spread across the United Kingdom?
Oh, yes. Well, I've had 6,000 responses so far to my housing questionnaire. And the regional spread from that is really interesting. Predominantly southeast, but we've even had one person from the Scilly Isles. Actually, we've had 2 people from Spain. So we have u3a members a bit beyond.
I think one of the stats that interests me was that if you got to 60, you potentially had another 30 years ahead of you, which for many people is almost a working life, isn't it?
It is. We're also interested in things that tackle ageism. And obviously that's something that u3a is very involved in. We don't need to be pigeonholed, do we? I mean, we're a vast range of people that are crossing a wide range of different age spans, mobility, health issues. I mean, the idea that you call people old from the moment they're 55 on is just ridiculous, isn't it? Because there's all kinds of different things that can happen to people in that span of years.
Final thoughts, Janet?
If they haven't already done so, please fill out the housing questionnaire. It's on our Future Lives webpage, and I encourage more people to do it and to get involved.
Janet Sutherland. And you can see more about the group, their events, and a chance to complete the questionnaire on their webpage at u3a.org.uk/future lives. Janet touched on the importance of the correct diet, and this is reinforced by Alex Connell from Vegetarian for Life. Peter Cliff spoke to Alex and said that the fact that we're all encouraged to eat more fruit and vegetables must surely be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of reasons why we should eat more fruit and veg. And sadly, we're not meeting, many children are not meeting their, it sounds a bit strange, a bit nanny state to say their targets. But, you know, for a healthy, balanced diet, 5 or more fruit and veg a day, many children aren't getting that. And adults too. So from a health point of view, it's very important to get a balanced, whatever diet you follow, but to have a whole range of different fruits and veg in your diet for all that fibre and vitamins and all the good stuff that's in there. But also what's becoming more and more important is to look at our carbon footprint. And many places, institutions are incorporating more fruit and veg into their menus to reduce their carbon footprint. So we've all have got targets to meet, and we're obviously contributing to those targets. And one of the ways to do it is to eat less meat, or at least eat more fruit and veg, which has a lower carbon footprint. So you will start to see on menus in hospitals and hotels, you will start to see more vegetable options, or they'll also be incorporating, which is quite interesting, more fruit and veg into their meat dishes. So you may have a lasagna which is made with meat, but they're going to reduce the amount of meat that's in there and then substitute protein-rich ingredients such as lentils or soy mince in there to make sure that the protein content is still good, but it's a plant-based source. Funnily enough, Tesco's have signed up for a new scheme, increased their fruit and veg portions in their ready meals to 66% from about 23%, I think it was. So it's quite a jump, and they've almost met that target. So next time you're in the supermarket, if you pick up at the ready meals, just for have a look, see how many portions of fruit or veg in it, and they are increasing them. And Tesco's are doing it. I'm sure lots of other places are doing it too. And they've got a range, and you'll see it, and it's like meat and veg all kind of combined together. So yeah, for lots of reasons. It's also cheaper as well. I know we're living through this very, very strange time of all the price increases, but fruit and veg aren't going up as much as meat. So from an economic point of view, whether it be at home or if you're a big company buying foods in, then they are moving towards that to save costs as well as their footprint.
Yeah, it's certainly much easier now to buy vegetarian meals, isn't it, in supermarkets? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you had to look around or even go to a specialist shop, really, but now it's kind of everywhere, and vegan as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I do pinch myself when I go in and look at the range of different foods that are available. We didn't have the ready meals, the convenience stuff, the veggie sausages and the veggie burgers. There were a few things out there, but not too much. But now you go in and, there's tons of it, all sorts of weird and wonderful products. I would just sort of say you've still got to watch out that they're not high in salt, because some of the ready meals can be, but certainly it's so different now. It really is, that the number of companies that are producing all sorts of things is quite incredible.
Certainly many farmers are saying that meat is going to become, poultry and everything is going to become more expensive.
Well, absolutely. The amount of heating and water and buying new machines and the steel and all that sort of stuff that goes into farming is going to get passed on to the consumer. If they don't pass it on, they go out of business. So it's as simple as that. That's not to say that the costs for farmers growing potatoes and beetroots and whatever, and their costs are still going up.
Do you see in the future then that most people would have a diet which might not be vegetarian fully, but would be certainly higher proportion of vegetarian and perhaps just a lower proportion of meat?
Definitely. Yeah, I can really see that happening as being very likely. And if you think back to post-war 1950s, then meat was quite scarce. We didn't have it. The vast majority of our diet was vegetables. And I can see that being the case in a not too distant future, where people will eat a lot less meat. They may not give up eating meat, but they will have it as more of a special occasion, rather than it being, you have to have it every single day and every meal.
Alex Connell. And that's it for this episode. Don't forget, if you've got anything you'd like to share with other u3a members nationwide, we'd love to hear from you. It could be an unusual group, a new initiative, or a quirky personal project. Get in touch through communications@u3a.org.uk. My thanks to Peter Clift, Joanne Watson and Sarah Goodall for the interviews, and to Ella Watts for producing the podcast. Until next time, this is Nick Bailey saying goodbye.